Next topic. I know this is not a typical full nerd thing, but I think it's actually worthy of talking about. We'll hear from everybody, see if they think. But the big deal is rose gold Dell XPS. No, not really.
It's so beautiful.
Oh, it's so pretty.
This is the XPS, the latest XPS 13. One of my favorite laptops. I love this thing. Although these days I'm rolling this awesome MacBook Air. No, this is the original XPS 13. It's now technically the fourth generation, I think, fourth iteration, because it went Broadwell, Skylake, Kaby Lake. This is the newest one, which is Kaby Lake Refresh 8th Gen Intel CPU. Of course, everybody's like, oh, that's just Kaby Lake. It's true. In fact, they're only calling it Kaby Lake Refresh. But the big deal is quad-core CPU. And I'm going to talk about some quick performance numbers, because I got to say, when Intel said, hey, we're going to stuff a quad core into a 15-watt TDP chip, I had a hard time believing it. So I took this, put it up against this Core i7, what's in this one? Core i7 7500U. This one has a Core i7 8550U. Dual core, quad core. I also threw in a Core i5. And the real challenge for this is I took two XPS 15 generations, the Skylake and the Kaby Lake quad core H parts, which were 45 watts. And I ran a bunch of benchmarks after updating drivers, BIOS, and the OS. Because people who don't know, on laptops, often the performance can change based on the BIOS, because the OEMs decide they're too loud, or maybe they're not fast enough so they can crank the speeds up. And my verdict is, damn, this XPS.
Damn.
Eric, you don't get that on the phone right now.
Also, Neglect Tech over on YouTube says, here comes the charts.
Oh, here come the charts.
Yay.
We're not going to do the Madden here. We don't have time. I just need these for my reference. But this, I mean, this, it is no joke, because I really thought, like, oh, this thing is just, there's no way. Yeah, it is as expected. A quad core 8th gen Kaby Lake Refresh just absolutely just trashes a Kaby Lake dual core, and of course against the Core i5 Broadwell, which I also included just to have for kicks, destroys it, right? Absolutely. I mean, it's just like you're looking at, like, it really is giving you quad core performance. And the real surprise, though, is this thing almost hangs with 45-watt parts. I mean, really, I mean, so I'm just going to pull this up. I don't even know if we can see these or not.
You're going to have to say it out loud anyway.
I'm just going to say it out loud for audio listeners anyway. So the, I got to find it on lists. I'm running VeraCrypt. Oh, did I screw this up? Oh, no, actually, whoa, this is crazy. So this is VeraCrypt encryption performance test. It's, you know, the latest open source encryption program. I think it's basically TrueCrypt. They turned it into VeraCrypt. The one that's actually on top, because it's a fairly short test, is actually the Dell. So the Dell, the 8th gen, the Kaby Lake Refresh quad core is 5.4 out of VeraCrypt encryption. Number 2 was the XPS 15 with a Core i7 7700U, 5.3, of course.
HQ part, right?
HQ, basically a tie, right? But we're talking about
15 versus 45
We're talking about a 15 versus 45 watt. We're talking about a 13-inch, you know, 2.6 pound laptop versus a 5-pound laptop.
Looking at the results, and this is the first time I'm seeing this,
Yeah.
it's just, man, anyone who bought a laptop in the last couple of months, I feel so terrible for.
I'm very sad, because my father-in-law actually bought this same HP laptop in front of me, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to tell him.
But he's not a
watching
performance
this
guy, right? I mean,
he's not, well, but no, because I was like, oh, he's just gonna, like, you know, browse the internet. But he's like, yeah, I need to copy some DVDs with this. Like, oh, you're gonna copy DVDs with this? I didn't know. No, he's gonna blame me for everything.
It's not even just that, though, but I'm assuming that Gordon's father-in-law is a Chinese father-in-law, and if he's anything like my mom, that he wants the best just because he wants the best.
Yeah. Oh, man, that thing is like loaded up. It's like 4K panel and
Like,
the largest
you don't
SSD.
need it,
It's like,
you'll never use it,
So
but you want it.
that's where Gordon gets it from.
But look, see, these other small bars, the little tiny bars, these are the dual cores. This green bar, 5.0, is a quad core. The bar at the top, 5.4 for Kaby Lake Refresh, 5.3 for Kaby Lake 45 watt, and then Skylake 5, and then add a Core i7 7500U 2.7, basically half the performance.
It's like literally half the performance.
Literally half the performance.
Half the number of cores, half the number of performance.
That's wild. And the older ones are 45 watts, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 45
Wow.
watt 45 watt laptops.
Those are the ones that you would see in some of the gaming laptops, like the big mammoth ones.
Yeah, for the most part, it is in a laptop currently, although I do have a desktop Coffee Lake in a laptop. But for the most part, that's the best you can get out of even a big gaming laptop. I just found a typo. I have to redo this chart too. This is Pavre. The top is the KB Lake 45 watt part, 1578. Number 2, Skylake Quad Core 45 watt part, 1435. There you go, Brad, you can see.
I can see through the papers when you hold it up.
Oh, okay, cool.
Also, real quick, Ruru2 on YouTube says he thinks Gordon's bedroom has bar graph wallpaper.
Yes, that would be awesome. I should have a shirt made with just bar graphs. But look, so now Pavre takes a little longer to run, and I'm going to get into one of the weaknesses of what you're doing in this form factor, the quad core part. Core i7 8550, so KB Lake refresh 1238. So 1500 versus 1200. That ain't bad. And then, of course, that is a KB Lake 45 watt part.
How long does that test run for?
It might take 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes.
So are we starting to see thermal throttling there?
Yes. In fact, I am going to bring that up at the very end. And, of course, but if you want to know, a dual core KB Lake XPS 13, so basically the exact same form factor, 763.
Ouch.
So the quad is 1238. The dual core is 763. That is a sizable amount of performance considering that it's the exact same size, right?
And pretty much, I mean, it's not even a whole new architecture. It's KB Lake refresh.
It's KB Lake refresh. And the refresh is we giving you more clocks. We're pushing it harder. Of course, we do want to know about single-threaded performance. So we have Pavre 3.7. On top is the KB Lake again. 391.
It's quad core KB Lake.
Quad core KB Lake.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the Skylake. So number 1, 391. Number 2, 386.
No, number 2 is the new one.
The new one, right?
Yeah.
See, I screwed all these up. Well, I put the model over the laptop. It's confusing me. So number 2, now the thing that this is the thing. In single-threaded tasks, it is actually faster than a Skylake 45 watt part. So 391 out of a KB Lake 45 watt. This new 8th gen KB Lake refresh, 386.
What are clock speed differences?
I'll get into that at the very end. Good question, excellent question. But number 2 is the KB Lake refresh. Number 3, surprisingly, is also the KB Lake dual core at 365, which is pretty much dead on tie with the 45 watt Skylake, a Core i7 6700 HQ part, so 359. So it is basically pushing clocks higher, and you know what? We can go through these other ones. You don't care. Basically the same story. Multi-thread performance, pretty good. But let's get into the heats now. Now, this is our handbrake test, which does take on a quad core. It'll take 45 minutes to run. On a dual core, it might take 2 hours to run. So what happens is the CPU is going to heat up. It's not going to run at the highest clocks. A lot of these other tests are 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's pretty easy load for a CPU. This thing running for 2 hours flat out, all the cores loaded up. Winner, 45 watt parts, no surprise. The KB Lake 45 watt part, 2743. 2,743 seconds. Number 2, Skylake, 45 watts, 3,033. But not bad. I got to say, not bad. KB Lake refresh, 3,567.
That's not bad at all.
That is that.
Given the
ain't
form
bad.
factor, I would have expected the delta to be larger.
I thought it'd be horrible. And of course, just for reference, a dual core 7500, i7 7500, 5800, right? So you're looking at 5800 versus 3500. That is, you're getting damn near 45 watt performance, even on a really long encode. That's a 30 gig file we're transcoding with Handbrake. That is very respectable, because my initial thought was this thing is going to throttle like a mother, right? It's just going to fall off and like drop down to like 1 gigahertz or something, but it's still running at a good clock speed. And of course, let's do just the frequency scaling.
Probably should note, though, that Dell's always been really good about not clocking down not like throttling as hard as some of the other manufacturers in their laptops.
Yes, Dell likes to push it. So
we might not necessarily see this level of performance in other laptops with the 8350.
Yeah, with the 8350 and other, clearly this is, the Spectre. HP just announced they updated Spectre. We just got one in. I haven't had a chance to test it. I also have an Acer Swift, but I think depending on the choices the OEM makes, it will be very critical in the performance. You're not going to XPS 13. Dell likes to push the fans up. They get a little warmer, but they give you top-notch performance. Some of the other vendors may not like to do that because they'll get complaints from customers.
Some of the super thin laptops that I was testing, I mean, when you talked about it throttling down to 1 gigahertz, I've actually seen that.
Yeah, it's like going backwards practically. So let's just look at this. So what I did is I ran Cinebench R15. I ran it with 1 thread up to 8 threads, and just to see kind of like where the clocks were going. And I used XTU, so I was getting accurate clocks. And it's a little, I think I was like trying to record it at about 10 seconds into the Cinebench run. So on 1 thread, so just to give you an idea of how the hell Intel's doing this, how hard they are pushing this new Kaby Lake refresh part, these quad core 15 watt parts. On a single thread in Cinebench, it's pushing 4 gigahertz. Right, 10 seconds into an encode. Or actually, I think this this chart is just when you first kick it off. It's like 1 or 2 seconds. They're pushing it at 4 gigahertz. So, and then at 2 threads, you drop down to. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, now it's been a week. 10 seconds in, 4 gigahertz. That's pretty respectable, right? 2 threads, you're pushing maybe 3.9, and then you can see, if you can, this one I really do need to sort of show the camera, and I'm going to try to explain it to audio listeners. You start off at 4 gigahertz, and then you start to fall down, by the time we get to about 4 threads, you're down to about 3.5 gigahertz, and when you push it all the way out to 8 threads, which is, running all 4 cores and the hyper-threading, you're down at 3.2 gigahertz. So you really do run out of clock speeds on this. I will say, though, interestingly, the XPS 15 with the Skylake part, they just never pushed it that hard. So the Skylake part, at the very end, if you're loading the CPU up, it's only pushing about 3.2 gigahertz. So that is, of course, that's 10 seconds into it. Now, interestingly, I said, well, you know what? It's not really representative of what you're going to get. So, I actually just watched it, the clock speeds overall while it was running, and realistically, you're going to get 4 gigahertz out of a quad core Kaby Lake refresh on a single thread. If you push it to 2 threads, basically it falls off a cliff. If you're really, really pushing it, and like if you're doing like a 60-second encode, the vast majority of it'll be at 3.5 gigahertz, and then it just starts to go lower and lower. So you can see by the time basically. During a Cinebench run, which is only about 5 minutes, at the very end, 8 threads, you're down to 2.8 gigahertz. Not bad, but you are well below what you're getting out of these 45 watt parts. These 45 watt parts, basically the Kaby Lake 45 watt part does the whole damn test at 3.4 gigahertz from 4 threads out. The Skylake 45 watt part is maybe 3.132 gigahertz the whole time, and these are very flat. You can see, they have this thermal headroom, so they basically just flatten out, and you could run these things to the end of the world and they will just hold that clock speed, whereas these quad core little tiny 15 watt CPUs, you really do run out of speed, and a lot of that is because this is a tiny laptop. I'm
actually really curious to see how this chip would hold up in a larger form factor.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just because it's not clear to me how much of it is actually a limitation of the chip itself and how much of it is of the form factor.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes they use chips like this in all-in-ones, which is a larger machine. So I almost wonder if you would see better performance in a form factor like that.
Yeah, and I honestly could see, because they have options. It's a 15 watt part, and I think you can set, hey, we're going to run it at 25 or 28. I forget what it is exactly. So you could see somebody say, hey, I'm going to make a gaming laptop with 1060, make it stupidly thin, and because we're going to pull some of the cooling out because we don't need it but we'll run the CPU up at say 28 watts or something, or then it really could. You could really see some new super thin form factors for gaming based on this.
Ruru2's asking, what was the multi-threaded Cinebench score?
Oh, let's
let's dig in the pile that I've thrown over my shoulder.
You know, just to get the charts back out.
Just to get he just wants to see the chart again.
Yeah.
All right. So for the multi-threaded performance, Cinebench 8 threads, I was seeing 611. So up here.
Okay. Ruru said he was maxing out like 606.
Yeah.
By the way, Jeffrey is saying, speaking of all-in-ones, they're still waiting for the Dell Ryzen all-in-one review.
Are you the same person that asked about it yesterday?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll repeat the explanation. So what happened was that we got the review unit in. That's the one that we unboxed, and that unit turned out to have issues. And it took a long time to troubleshoot and go back and forth. And by the time I got the second unit, I was just slammed in my schedule. And I've been trying to catch up ever since. So I really do want to finish that review. It's on my list of things to do. It's a really cool system. I think it's worth the review. So it's coming.
You to finish that review right now.
What?
She's not going to Disneyland.
Why?
I'm not going anyway because it's too expensive, stupid mouse.
I've never been to Disneyland. I've
Have you not?
never seen the appeal. I've never been interested.
You have to go. Just
it's so
to see
expensive
it.
just to say I did it.
But it's an experience. Like you go there and you realize just how good Disney is at manufacturing experiences that make people want to come back.
I should start a GoFundMe to send me
You'd
to
be
Disneyland.
surprised.
Okay, give her that bonus after all. It's a small world. Wait, let me finish that out for people who want to know. So, quad core, I don't mean Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Can we even say Mickey Mouse and not get sued?
I mean, too late.
Man, that'd be a bummer.
Too late.
So,
hold on. They're at the door.
Oh, no. So, 611 out of a 13 XPS 13. This Core i7 XPS 13 with a Kaby Lake dual core 333.
Oh, gosh.
Right? That is saying Cinebench is a fairly short run. That's 8 threads. Skylake H 45 watts, 675. I got to tell you, all that weight you were carrying for that, XPS 15, and then you get 675 versus 611. Damn. Of course, Kaby Lake is 714.
It's like almost 2 pounds more, isn't it?
Yeah, at least. It definitely.
Dell XPS 15, I think, is 4.5 pounds, and these are about like 2.75.
Yeah, they're the XPS. Once you put, if you put it in touch in 4K, it can get pretty pudgy. So,
we got a question from. Sorry, go ahead, Brad.
All this makes me all the more appreciative of my giant hard drive laden work issued laptop. I gotta say,
Is appreciate the right word, Brad?
It's appreciate.
Yes. Do you even have an SSD?
No, of course not. There's no SSD.
I had to ask for one from our IT department because I couldn't handle it anymore.
Yes,
I was dying.
Yeah, I actually asked for a desktop, and I because I could not get a large enough SSD, I actually asked for an Optane drive. Believe it or not, I'm serious. It's just sitting over there. I have to break it out and set it up.
I was just wondering if that was a segue.
Real quick, I'm going to stop this segue because Neglect Tech says, so does the chart say it would be a better investment to buy a Kaby Lake refresh laptop or an Xbox One X?
Well,
I like you.
Yeah, I would say I would do. I mean, this is quad core performance in this form factor. And I swear, again, no kidding.
For $1,200.
For $1,200. But look, this Spectre X360 HP just updated. They changed the whole design. They somehow squished a quad core CPU into something this thin. So I don't know, but I gotta say I would definitely take a nice laptop over an Xbox One console.
I have a question for you though. Do you think AMD will be able to compete with this?
No.
Oh, yes. So that is the question.
Yes.
And of course, the other news in all things CPU is AMD has finally announced Ryzen Mobile, Ryzen 7 and Ryzen 5. They're not really called mobile, but we call them that just to differentiate. They are APUs. They have a 10 CU version, and they have an 8 CU version. Ryzen 5 has 8 CUs. I'm going off memory, so I'm probably totally wrong. And
you're right
both
so
are
far. I
quad
have
core.
it on my screen.
Okay, and they're both quad core parts. And AMD is another thing. Very impressed. I've not seen a part though, but they're saying like, look, hey, we got our Vega cores, and we're giving you Zen cores, 4 of them with SMT. Our score, what's their score? You probably have it right for their Cinebench score. They actually give it.
I gotta scroll down there.
You got to scroll down, and this is going to tell you what it's going to be like. This is here first. I have it. I'm telling you what it is, but Here's what AMD says they're going to come out with.
Man, Cinebench 15, 1 thread, AMD Ryzen 7 2700U is 144. Multi-thread is 719.
Yeah, 719. So that is above. That is above an 8-core 45-watt Kaby Lake Edge, which
Wait,
is
how many
714.
watts are these parts supposed to be?
15 watts.
15.
Yeah.
So that is what they are saying. So I guess, that's their mouth writing a check. Can we cash that? We're going to find out. But I got to say, Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, it's no joke.
And
if
what
their
are
numbers
the-
are right.
Unbelievable.
What kind of, what's equivalent, I guess, graphics-wise, what they're saying?
They basically, because I said, well, what, they're like, hey, look, our, no surprise, a 10 CU Vega core craps all over, integrated graphics, 620, HT 620. But I said, well, how does it compare to discrete? And they said, oh, we got some numbers. We came back and they said, like, our numbers show, I don't know if it's Skydiver or Firestrike, but basically the equivalent of a 940 GeForce part. Which,
That sounds about right.
oh, wait, maybe 950. Was it 950 or 940? I forget. It's in that. It's in the story.
I just
can't
have the
remember.
numbers here that you have from their slide deck.
Oh, okay. But I believe, yeah. Go ahead.
So, gaming and ultra thin monitor, they have a 1080p on medium for League of Legends, 60 frames a second. 1080p on fastest settings in Dota 2, 49 frames a second. If you go to Overwatch, you got to drop it down to 720 low, but you get 66 frames a second. All of which is pretty respectable for a mobile part. I mean,
Yeah.
that's I think it's a little bit below what I got with the Ryzen 550, but not too much slower.
Oh, here it goes. Okay, I found it. So they're saying 3D Mark Time Spy, an 8500, 8550U, basically the same CPU in this Dell, but in a different platform. So the performance could be different in Time Spy, 350. And compared to a 7500U Kaby Lake, same damn graphics course, 377. They are saying they are 915 versus 350 out of this, a similar platform. But that is equivalent, and I was way wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. They are saying their performance in Time Spy, which is, synthetic benchmark, is equivalent of a 950M. Damn. Yeah, that's pretty good. 950M is respectable
That's-
part.
That's not
940
bad to have baked right onto your CPU.
Yeah. 940, actually, if I remember right, Iris Pro, Iris Plus was kind of like getting up there. So 940 was getting pretty relevant. So 950M is not bad baked into it. Yeah. Baked into the core. I mean, it's crazy. So
Allie's asking on YouTube, do we know if laptops are coming this year?
yeah, I would expect there are 3 models announced, and I should give them a shout out because what the heck? Why not? There are 3 models: the Lenovo IdeaPad 720S, Acer Swift 3, and an HP Envy X360.
So here's the thing that I found super interesting when I read that part of your article. For something that's supposed to be going toe-to-toe with Kaby Lake Refresh, it's all going into the mid-tier laptops,
Yes. Yeah.
which I think is really weird positioning for the chip.
Well, I don't honestly believe that's a positioning by AMD. I think that's the only port open to them.
Maybe, but I just don't know if that's really going to give them the exposure, the type of exposure they want.
Yeah, it's not. You get into an XPS 15, you get into a Spectre X360, that's a different game.
Right.
Because these are, you get into a
Exactly.
MacBook Air, damn, the world changes, right? But I think they have to prove themselves first. And I think the problem is, they're coming back from AMD is the equivalent of, trash processor for years and years and years and years. Zen is a real deal. Are people going to buy $1,000 to $1,200 laptop with it? I don't know if consumers are trained to believe that AMD is equivalent. We know it. We're nerds. We follow this. Our listeners know this. If I could get an XPS 13 with a Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 5, it'd be like, hell yeah, why not, right? I mean, if it's true, if they can really hit the performance levels at that wattage.
I mean,
But
sure.
people don't. They're going to go, oh, I want the Intel part because Intel's premium. Right?
But that's the thing, though. I mean, if it was like on price, because back in the day when AMD still had actual skin in the game, you would see, let's say, the equivalent of an XPS 13 out there, and you would have the Intel versions, and then for like $200 less, you would have the AMD version that still performed pretty much as well. So I could still see consumers going for that, again, cost-effective option in that tier.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's why I think it's medium, because I think the medium tier, like you're saying, because I think once you get up to the XPS 13 level kind of style laptops, I don't think Dell wants to offer a step down Ryzen version of that. That's like one of their flagships, whereas they take a gamble on new Ryzen chips and something more mainstream.
Right.
I guess.
Because, I mean, everybody, if you associate, me at least, I think a lot of people do, associate Ryzen or AMD APUs and laptops with the $400 and less things you get at Best Buy.
That's true.
Right.
Because of the past few years. Or
Yeah, and that's a
decade.
It's a really bad. You got to get past that image. They have to rebrand themselves, reacquaint themselves with the consumers that we are a premium performance part. Consumers don't turn overnight. Gamers, yeah, they read the reviews, they watch the full nerd, they know these things. But I got to say, the average person going to Best Buy, they're gonna why am I paying extra for not as good?
But you wouldn't be, in theory, if they're going for a value. I'm just saying, in my mind, how it used to be, at least. Because if you had both the Core i7 version up against, say, a Ryzen 7 mobile version, then one would be cheaper than the other, but in theory, performance would be the same.
Yeah, and I got to say, also, people have to remember, if you think that Intel has market share on desktops, you ain't seen nothing yet. You look at laptops. Intel is like probably 95% of laptops sold out there. 90%. I mean, there's the only place that AMD has room right now is in these $300 wonders on Amazon and Best Buy right now. That's about the only place they play. But 95%, 90% of all laptops sold are Intel. So it's going to be a climb to get back there. But I do know that they said, hey, we got 3 laptops that will be coming out this year in time for the holiday. Christmas, and they did say expect more. Clearly there will be more design wins, so and Ryzen itself has really sort of helped salvage, really turn the image of AMD around. So I would have, of course I want to see it. I don't know, but if they're really telling the truth, it's really going to be a game changer, which is why we have this part, right?
I really like the idea of a thin and light laptop that I can play Overwatch on while I'm traveling for work or whatever. And this will do that. So I'm really intrigued to see what it does. Yeah. I've always been a big fan of the APU idea. And it looks like if they can, cash everything that their mouth is doing, then this looks like a pretty interesting part to me.
Yeah. You'll have to wait, though, I think, because, I mean, for example, I know that Envy for sure is definitely chunkier than the Spectre line.
Yeah.
But Ruru2 on YouTube asks, but will the AMD APU game better than the Xbox One X?
No.
Yeah, because it's cheaper. Because it'll come with a television, a controller, and speakers.
And it has the keyboard and mouse built right in.
And the keyboard and mouse built right in, man.
What a deal.
And Wi-Fi. It's got everything.
Xbox One X does have Wi-Fi, Gordon.
Oh, it does? They got that now?
They got that now.
Oh,
I found out yesterday. I was like, I couldn't believe it. There's 64-player Battlefield maps. I was like, what? Really? Because I remember that was like the biggest thing. It's like, oh, Battlefield 4 is out. What? There's only 32-player maps on Xbox and PlayStation? And it turned out they actually did eventually add 64-player maps to Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah, they've had high play count games before.
I know. So. I'm not sure. I think were those 64-player maps also running at 1080p? I'm not.
On the X, yeah.
Was it? I don't.
It's not even 1080p.
Do you have the sound clip queued up yet? Because I want to play it right now.
We should all play together. Hey, Disney just signed a deal with Microsoft. Oh man! Oh, I hope there are. Well, if we go out that door and there's lawyers standing right outside, that will just be like, oh, I didn't say
That's it. That's it.
That'll be it.